The following content is not intended as a substitute for professional legal advice, medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your attorney, advocate, physician, or other qualified health provider with any questions you may have regarding any medical or educational concerns.
Good morning and welcome to Empower Dyslexia podcast and show. I'm Stephen Yearout. This podcast is here to help all of us become better partner in education. This show we discuss dyslexia and other related disorders, research, interventions, special education policy at the state and federal level. We also interview experts in their field and people with personal experiences and their stories. Be sure to like us on Facebook and on YouTube, subscribe. And always, as always, if you're an audio podcast listener, you can reach us and download all of our episodes on all of your favorite podcast apps, iTunes, Google Play, Amazon, Stitcher, Spotify. And if you're watching this, obviously you're watching this on either Facebook or YouTube Live. So make sure that you like us and subscribe. Leave us a comment. We love to know what you're thinking. Today, the topic is dyslexia running the distance. Our guest today, we're going to talk with him about his challenges and experience in school work, and he actually ran the World Marathon Challenge, and how he's inspiring others who struggle to run their own race. But most importantly, he's making sure that people understand that you're not alone in all of this. As a lot of times that we tend to feel like we're the only one that's going through this because we don't want to go out and seek the help or let people know that we're struggling with this. So we really appreciate his advocacy there. Jared at age 5 was diagnosed with dyslexia and sensory processing disorder. He graduated salutatorian from USC, University of Southern California, with 2 master's degrees now. He was the former football operations director at USC, but he still kept, this part of his life a secret because he didn't want the stigma around it. He didn't know how other people would treat him and how that may hurt some of his opportunities that he may have further in life. He's also authored a book, Running the Distance. 100% of those proceeds go to IDA, International Dyslexia Association. In January 2018, he ran the World Marathon Challenge, and we'll talk about that here in a little bit. It's 7 marathons, 7 continents, 7 days. And he did this to raise awareness for dyslexia and $50,000 for the International Dyslexia Association. I mean, I'm so honored to have Jared on the show. So good morning, Jared. How are you?
So much for having me today. Really excited to be here. Just appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, Jared and I got to spend a little bit of time together this last November at the International Dyslexia Association conference, where he actually ran an entire marathon during the conference. That was amazing.
It was good. It was so good to connect with you there. I remember just being able to, the energy in the room, and then to be able to run a marathon at the conference was definitely fun. That was a great experience.
Absolutely. So to start, I mean, I kind of gave a bio, but it's always better to hear it come from you. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, why you advocate for the dyslexia population, and why do you say dyslexia?
Definitely. I was diagnosed with dyslexia when I was actually 5 years old, and it was in the eye doctor's office, and they'd been running some tests, giving me glasses, but nothing seemed to be working. And the eye doctor actually, and then she went and got my mom. And at that point, I knew I'd been caught. I think at 5, I knew something was off, but I didn't know how to articulate that. And what they found, she suspected that I was able to see the letters, just not recognize what they were. And so from there, I was able to have parents that had the resources to get testing and proper diagnosis. And we actually were living in Portland at the time, and we went down to California for testing, got the official diagnosis of dyslexia. And then I also had some fine motor skill issues. So like sensory processing, or probably what they refer to as dyspraxia today, under the dyslexia umbrella. And the hard work, I remember meeting with a specialist who's like, okay, so having dyslexia and going to school is going to be like running with a cut on the bottom of your foot. It's going to be really, really hard and painful at times, but I need you to know that you can do it. And that was said to me at a young age, and I didn't really fully understand what that all meant, but that analogy really hit home with me, especially as the years went on. And a snapshot of my day was, especially in elementary school, was I'd get up in the morning, practice spelling with my mom, and then she would take me to school. We'd go to school. She'd take me up. We'd go to occupational therapy, then back to school. And then I was lucky if I had like a practice or some sort of sport. Sports was always kind of my outlet, not necessarily like my talent, but just the movement itself was something that I really enjoyed. And then it was onto the tutors. So it was like school on top of school is what we called it. And that was elementary school. And and, you know, eventually I got to the point where it was just tutoring that I needed. And kind of where I learned that, you know, they always say there's this 3-to-1 ratio. So for every hour that a neurotypical student spends on homework, it's usually 3 for someone who has dyslexia or learning challenges. And if I could study 3 hours, then I could study 4. And I was classroom 20, you know, outside of the classroom, 20 to 30 hours a week with tutoring or studying on my own, because what I would get in the classroom was probably about 25% of the material. And so the only way that I could obtain the other 75% was through tutoring. And so that was the high school experience. And that, I think that's what led to being able to graduate salutatorian. I mean, I go back at one point, I think in near the 3rd grade, I got the messaging that I probably wouldn't graduate high school or get above a C average. And I think that always kind of stuck with me. And that's probably the sense that I always felt that if I got good grades, then that would combat being stupid or feeling stupid or dumb in the classroom, which we know isn't the case, because we know dyslexia doesn't affect intelligence, but it felt that way at the time, especially as a young person.
Absolutely.
So then it was on to USC, and kind of hit my stride as I think after graduating college, going on to get 2 masters and working in sports is where I was really understanding what I was capable of and finding that rhythm of being able to finally feel like I was competing, even though there are, you know, there are challenges that we deal with constantly. But the advocacy piece comes because not only do I know the numbers and the statistics from a standpoint of dyslexic. And
Hey, Jared,
was-
you were breaking up a little bit there, buddy.
is that better now?
Yes.
Not only do we know like the percentages, I think they just did a study in the prison in Huntsville where 50% of the population had some sort of form of learning challenge. And so a lot of the advocacy that I feel strongly about is wanting to support those efforts to change those numbers. And the other part of my advocacy is I recognize how fortunate I was to have the family and support, and I knew how hard it was, and I couldn't imagine without that. And I was able to help all students get there and run whatever that might look like in a positive way.
So if we back up a little bit in middle school, high school, what was your passion? I mean, you talked about sports being your outlet. For me, I mean, that was really the only thing that kept me in school as long as it did, was playing football. So what was your passion, your drive in school? And I guess the first part of that question would have been, really, did you, although that you were diagnosed very young and you were getting the help outside, what kind of struggles did you see in the classroom? And that could be, any time period, K through 12, and just kind of talk about that.
I think one of the natural struggles were, and probably best to explain it from the experience, getting pieces of paper and sitting at the desk and give the instructions and I would see all my classmates going and moving and doing things, and I didn't really know what was going on. And you look down at the paper and the words didn't make sense for me. So then, you get up and be like, and they're like, well, read the directions. And that just felt like because you have all these people that are moving around you and you don't know what to do and you want to participate, you want to figure it out, but it's just, you're kind of lost in the classroom from my experience. And that's why I say I got like 25% of the material and then had to go get it outside. So, I mean, that was a real struggle. And at the time going through school, I didn't know other people that were really dyslexic. Like if I met another dyslexic person, it was usually in like a tutoring session and it was for a brief period of time, and then you go back to your school and no one's talking about it. So it's like you definitely feel like you're the only one going through it.
Yeah, I had a friend of mine I went to high school with. She was actually a guest on our show, who now teaches dyslexia therapy to teachers. She said I was the first person that she can remember in school talking about dyslexia. So, I mean, I was preaching about it back then too. So what was your passion? What kept you in school and kept you going?
Like you, I think sports were really the outlet. I played soccer and ran, and I think that was the biggest motivator. Like that was the part of the day I was looking forward to the most. So that really kept me in the game, I think, from everything to be directed around that, right? You got to have the grades to participate. And so it was really that becoming an outlet. And then I figured out, I remember one day I was studying and I wasn't getting the material and I just went for a run, and coming back, I realized that somehow it started to make sense and I amazing feeling to me is like for a run and then coming back with a clear head could allow me to do the work. So early on was to deal with the frustration and the challenges of it all. Eventually, when I learned that tool, it became more of a passion.
So were you always a distance runner? Or
I mean, I was on the treadmill in middle school on days that we weren't like practicing soccer, and in high school there were times I'd just go for a run until I couldn't run anymore. So I think distance was kind of my natural vibe to explore in that space.
yeah, like I told you yesterday or the other day when we were talking, I was on the front line, so we ran 10 yards at a time. That's about it. Unless we were in trouble, then our coaches made us run a lot. So
I always told our football, I remember in high school too, I always told the football teams, the guys in the trenches that really get it done. Maybe not the most glorified positions, but they're the ones that are making everything happen.
there you go. There you go. So, you graduate high school. How did you pick, or when did you know that you wanted to go to college? Because I mean, that's something that our kids that have learning disabilities, challenges, I mean, whatever way you want to describe it, go through is they're believing the lie that they're not smart enough a lot of times to even go to college. So they don't even go down that track. They don't even look at it because it's too painful for them. So when did you know that you wanted to go to college?
I think I'm a lot like your audience in that regard. Is like I didn't know that it was possible. It wasn't until after I had decent grades coming out of freshman year that the resource teacher came and said, "Well, have you thought about college?" And she's like, "What colleges would you want to go to?" And I remember like not having thought about it, I just kind of listed off the colleges that I'd seen in the NCAA basketball tournament. I was saying like Michigan and UNC and Duke and schools that I didn't even know where they were geographically, but that those were just my frame of reference. And I don't know that it wasn't like I had this mission to get to college. It was like more like I had this mission to prove I wasn't dumb or stupid. And because that's how I felt all the time. And joke in my family that my two older brothers they both went to USC, and the joke in the family is that my oldest brother went there for business and my middle brother went there because he saw the opportunities and experiences, and then I went there because I said, well, if those two guys can do it, so can I. And it's and I when I talk to students, I tell them it's important to make those decisions, whether it's in high school or it doesn't have to be college, but it can be. But just to know why you're doing it and to have an idea of what it is you're attempting to pursue. And I think the other part of college for me was I wanted to have a career in sports. And so I battled the line of probably working with the chip on my shoulder and then looking at it from the opportunity standpoint of working in sports.
So
that was working in. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, so both your brothers went to USC, correct? That's what you said?
Yeah.
Okay.
Correct. Yes.
So once you get to USC, were you receiving accommodations or any help there? And, was it, did you find it difficult to receive that help?
Yeah, I got accommodations there. I had, they have a special curriculum program, and I was able to receive note takers. I was able to have a private room for taking tests, so that the accommodations there were actually easier than when I was in high school. And so everything was just kind of documented, and it's just you check in and you get your you get your notes and you check in and you get your room to take your tests in. So it was actually more streamlined in college than it was in
I think we lost you. No, still can't hear you.
We'll call him back.
Okay. Give us just a second. We'll try to reach him back. So, for me, I always wanted to go to SMU.
Hello?
Yeah.
Hey, can you hear me now?
Yeah, sounds great. I was just saying that for me, the college that I always, in elementary school and part of the way through middle school, the school that I wanted to go to it was SMU. Have no idea why. It wasn't because I wanted to go to law. I liked, SMU Mustangs. And then the other one I thought of was University of Texas. And I had no idea, back then what it would ever take to get into either one of those schools. But so those were my two picks of going to college, and didn't do either one of them. But doesn't mean I can't do it now.
Right, not at all. I mean, it's always on the table, right?
Absolutely. And I mean, now that I've gone through remediation, I feel like I can go do those things. Well, I know that I can go be very successful in either one of those colleges. So.
Yeah, and I think to expand on that, like with the right tooling, like the opportunities become endless in that regard, like whether it's schools or whether it's trade or whatever it might be. It's like with the right, and I think that's why I'm such a proponent of advocacy, because I feel that anyone in this classification that can get the right training can go on to be successful. Not that it won't be hard at times, but that it eliminates a lot of the challenges that we face.
Absolutely. So when we were talking and preparing for the show, I asked you this question: when did you start publicly speaking for the dyslexia population, advocating? And then was there a special, or was there an event? Was there, what was the catalyst for that? Like what I told you, because of my kids being diagnosed, and then going back and looking and seeing what they're providing for kids today versus what I got when I was in school, is really the catalyst for me to do what I'm doing now. So was there an event, or was there something that drove you, or your passion for advocacy for these for our children that have learning challenges?
Well, I think, yeah, for sure. I think very much similar to you is like, I went through the struggles myself, and I really thought I was alone in the matter. And then to realize that that wasn't the case, and not only was it not the case, but 30 years later, the system is still providing a lot of difficulties for this population. I felt responsible to help and to change the culture around dyslexia. I really feel, I guess, a sense of such gratitude that, even though, when I was going through it, my parents, they didn't really, they had the resources to get testing and diagnosis. We didn't really know how to handle it. We were stringing together a plan with duct tape and string, as I like to say, but we know so much more now, and we can provide so many resources and situations for these students that are coming through to make their lives easier as they go forward. It only makes sense to me to be an advocate.
Right. We have to find our way to give back.
Yeah, 100%.
Regardless of me, not receiving help back then, your story is, I love the fact that they were able to reach you and get you to understand that the help that you're going to receive through intervention, tutoring, whatever is going to be a game changer for you. Where I wish that I would have had somebody that could have, reached me and said, "Hey, look, this is something you really need." Because I was that child that didn't think that he needed help, but still couldn't do it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it totally makes sense. I think it's so interesting because I think with all our stories, right? There's differences, and then there's yet this similar trend. Like, we all knew we're capable of more. It's like, how do we get there? And then we all, despite whether someone received resources or not, it's like there's this need to tell people the system isn't working, and we're really neglecting 10 to 20% of the population because of the way we've orchestrated an educational system.
Absolutely. So, you ran your first marathon. So let's go back to USC. So, you graduated, you got a master's in communication, correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
And then you went on and got another master's or MBA.
Yeah, I did a master's of business administration up at Seattle Pacific while I was working for the University of Washington.
Awesome. And then you got a job at, tell us a little bit about working at USC.
Yeah, so I started as a hydration engineer, if you will, aka water boy. And that was my first job in sports, and that's really where I developed a dream of mine to become a director of football operations. I'd seen, at the time, Pete Carroll was the head coach and Mark Jackson was the director of football operations, and now he's the athletic director at Villanova. And I just saw how they operated, and I thought, wow, that's really a cool career path, because not only are they operating a football team at a high level, but they were involved in community projects. They were really instrumental in developing student athletes, and I just thought that was something that I could get behind and be really passionate about. And so that was where I kind of developed that dream. And then in 2012, became a director of football operations. And that really just entails everything that you wouldn't see on the field. So a lot of the logistical planning, travel, meals, hotel for the team when they're on the road. And then in 2015, that's when I saw on ESPN, I was sitting on the couch with my family, and I saw this race that was 7 marathons in 7 days on 7 continents. And it was called the World Marathon Challenge. And I was like, that was one of the coolest things that I've seen, because to me, it incorporated everything that I'd gone through in elementary school from a schedule standpoint to running. And it was a race that made sense to me. And I told my family I was going to do that. And they all kind of laughed at me and thought I was crazy. But in 2017, after 12 years in collegiate sports, I think it was 11 bowl games that I was a part of, and 3 national championship games. I really thought I could do more, and quit my job to train for this World Marathon Challenge and raise a fundraising goal for the International Dyslexia Association of $50,000 and awareness. So I was training, speaking, and really trying to dive into this community.
Yeah, I can honestly say if I would have saw the World marathon challenge on ESPN, I'd be like, well, that looks nice, but it looks cold too. So, big props.
Thank you.
Although, like I told you before, I mean, that's always been kind of a, in the back of my mind, it's something that I've wanted to do just to say I've done it, is to run a marathon. So you may have to come here to Texas and help me run a marathon.
Heck yeah. I'd love to help write a plan or get down there to
Look, I'm
cheer that
all
on.
about challenges, and challenges drive me. So, I'm all in if you're in.
Yeah, heck yeah. Let's do it.
All right. So there's another challenge. I'm going to get myself in all kinds of trouble here. So, did you reach your goal of $50,000?
Yeah, I did. Not initially. So I completed the World Marathon Challenge, and so the physical part of the goal was done, but I had not fully reached the fundraising goal. So I signed up for the Tahoe Rim 100 miler, which is a 100-mile race in Tahoe, and that's in the summer. So I kind of kept fundraising and speaking and doing different events. I think there was one day I even did like a 50K in the morning, and then I was doing a speaking engagement that night. And through all those efforts and connecting with people, and one amazing generous donor, we were able to reach the $50,000 goal prior to the Tahoe Rim 100.
That's awesome. That's great work. All right. Well, look, I'm not going to be the only one running this marathon. So I want to know who else out there wants to run a marathon with Jared and I. We'll find a marathon wherever it is. Hopefully we can find one here in Dallas in the spring, so we're not cooking on the asphalt. But let's all run a marathon together. Let's set a goal. We'll raise money and run a marathon. What do you think, Jared?
I'm on board. I think that'd be a great challenge.
Awesome. So if you want to run a marathon with us, you put some comments in the space below, and we'll plan it and set it out there. So not like you had to do anything else, but you're an author also.
Yes, I wrote a book, Running the Distance, that was published by the International Dyslexia Association, and all the sale proceeds go back to the organization. So a way to tell my story and hopefully with the goal of helping people, and then at the same time supporting the organization.
So, okay, which was harder, writing the book or running the marathon?
Writing the book. I tell you, it was one of the most challenging things I've ever done. I think there were days where I was like actually out of breath trying to write versus run. So it was definitely it was a good challenge for me to go through in that regard.
Well, we definitely thank you for all that you're doing, and the efforts that you put into supporting, our community and advocating for our population. Can you tell us where we can, buy the book?
Yes, so the book is available at the International Dyslexia Association's website. They have a store, or like a bookstore on their page, and then it's available there. Again, all sale proceeds go back to the organization. But yeah, it's available now. I think they even have a few hardcovers left to sell as well.
Okay. So I'm going to actually, as soon as this is over, I'm going to go on there and order a book. I will also put the link to this book on our website and our Facebook page, and you can go out there and order your book through their website. Well, I'm excited that I have thrown out another challenge and And, now I'm going to be able to do another goal of mine, which is to run a marathon and have somebody to go through it with me. I'm definitely like you. If you can do it, I can do it.
That's right. That's right.
Being in a little bit of pain doesn't scare me at all. We've lived through much worse, and it's for, a short amount of time. So let's do it. Keep up the great work. If there's anything that we can do to help, with your advocacy work, please let us know. We're here, and we appreciate all you do.
Yeah, I appreciate all you're doing, and thank you so much for having me on. I think what you guys are doing and connecting people and sharing with the community is so important to keep getting these stories out. So thank you for this.
Absolutely. Okay, so we'll let Jared go. And again, thank you for coming on the show. We'll definitely give you some updates on where we find a marathon to run. And I'm serious. I want as many people that would like to join us in this running a marathon to come, and we'll make up shirts or whatever. I don't know. We'll figure it out. So let's jump over to events. Let's talk about some events real quick. You ready? Yeah. All right. So Learning Ally has a web event. Author Dan Gutman on February 22nd. They are psyched to bring you an amazing author event. Come hear Dan Gutman, the author of My Weird School series, which has more than 60 books in its series and has sold more than 25 million copies. Dan talks about there is nothing weird about reading. This will be on February 27th at 1 p.m. You can register at learningali.org/great reading games. There's what the webpage looks like. We'll also put a link to this on our website and our Facebook if you'd like to join that. Also, Learning Ally, as we told you last week, is one of our sponsors. For this show, we're really excited about partnering with Learning Ally. We also have a discount code for Empowered Dyslexia. So you can take 20% off your new family membership when you order. Use the code ED20 when you check out. So, we want to thank Jared again for coming on our show, telling his amazing story, and doing all that he's doing for our population, and getting the word out about dyslexia and learning challenges. We want to make sure that we support him. Please go out and buy his book, help support him there. Again, be sure to like us on Facebook, comment, subscribe to us on YouTube, comment there. It helps us with our sponsors. Remember, you can always hear us. If you'd rather do the audio version of Empowered Dyslexia, you can do it on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, Alexa, AnyPod, TuneIn, all Heart Radio. We're everywhere that you want to be. As always, at the end of our show, we want to say, if your child is struggling in school and you're not sure what's going on, we suggest that you don't wait. No matter who says what, don't wait. You need to go to the school, turn in your letter to start the testing process. Have your child tested. It's not a painful process. We have templates on our website, www.empowerdyslexia.info. You can download those templates, fill it out, turn it in to your school counselor, and you'll get the process started. And you'll be happy that you did. You'll be able to figure out what's going on. Your child will be happy also that they'll be able to get the help that they need so they're not struggling. So thank you for tuning in, and until next time, we'll see you there.